If it's undercovered, underreported, or a waste of time, you can be sure it will be heard. Nothing is off limits.
Welcome to Broad Street Radio.
Welcome to Broad Street Radio. I'm Michael Morris, sitting with me, producer extraordinaire, Nathan Schoener. Nathan, how are you?
Don't you mean the man behind the show?
If I meant that, I would have said that. Okay. I totally don't mean that.
Sure.
Actually, without you, we couldn't do this.
That's my point.
Well, this is your studio. So, and you do record it.
Yes.
Do you realize that without you, I can't do anything? Like when I did radio shows, I had a producer there, but I just used everybody. I just came and went. That's all I did.
Yep.
It was so much better that way.
Hey, whatever.
My producer literally would talk to me while the show was going on. Like, just start talking and I'll give you an example.
So how's it going?
You're doing a great job. Like constantly cut in. Or like I'd be saying something and he'd be like, in 1968, Hablanca, and I'm like, what are we doing? So I just had to go with it for 5 years.
Live on the air, or was it
so
live
we
to
would
tape?
we would do it live to tape, so there was no editing. But when we would do it, he was in charge of cutting things out. So of course he would never cut his stuff out. But there would always be a guest, and when the guest was there, they had no idea that he was going to do that. And so we would just be talking, whatever. And they would get freaked out because he would look at the monitor the whole time. And then all of a sudden he would just pull his microphone over slowly and they'd just talk. And so I got used to it, but they would be like, there was no introduction of this is who this guy is. This is what he's doing. So yeah, it was entertaining. But now we put you on camera, which, you know, since we've done that, ratings have plummeted.
True.
How do you feel about that?
I'm all right with it. Got to start the climb from somewhere.
No. We started the descent with you. We were climbing, is what I'm saying.
Well, were we?
Not really.
Yeah, exactly.
Not really. Well, I do want to talk about the decline of Western media, but not news and all that. I want to talk about what's going on right now, and I want to get your reaction because, again, just to reintroduce that Nate did go to school for film. Was it just film or was it also television? I guess it's the same thing, right?
Well, filmmaking, which also encompasses television.
So when you're seeing the things coming out with the Warner Discovery issue, the first thing I want to say is, were you even excited about a Batgirl movie?
No, but let's pull the train back a second just to get them up to speed on what is. So why don't you...
So the Warner Discovery merger, which happened really about 6-8 months ago, David Zaslav has come in, and Zaslav's money-making ability has been not in scripted programming. It has been in not reality shows, but like documentaries about wolves in the wild. He does have a lot of reality show background, but more like a real world type of thing. So it is technically a little scripted, but those are cheap to produce and you can make tons of them versus scripted shows where you might have 14 writers on a series or something. But what he's known for is slashing budgets to make profits. So I believe that the profits when they had the earnings call, Warner Discovery had lost $3.8 billion under the previous regime. So a lot of the things that you've seen that have come out, whether it was Justice League, whether it's a Zack Snyder cut or not, whether Suicide Squad, the Harley Quinn movie, things that did not make money or that were commercially controversial, we'll say, he wants to get rid of all that. So the controversy is, and I hate this word, but it looks as though he's getting rid of all woke programming. Anything that might be other than just kind of run-of-the-mill, here's your entertainment, eat your popcorn type of stuff. So that's kind of the background on this of what's happening with Warner Discovery, because they're not only are they not turning a profit, they're losing so much money. So is that good enough of a background, you think?
Yeah.
That gets people up?
Yeah, so I guess that was quite a bit of it. But the biggest thing is, so they have shelved Batgirl, which was a last-minute shelve, and that's what's been going through the news. I briefly mentioned to you this before before we started filming, we have a meeting, a networking meeting that we go to. And I had mentioned this, that I've come across a list of other films. So this isn't by any stretch of the imagination something that isn't out of the normal. Now, it's not something that happens all the time, because I think it was estimated 90 million was the budget.
Well,
somewhere around there.
So what's being reported is $70 million.
$70 million,
really,
that's it.
when they take everything else into account, reshoots and all that, it's really $100 million was put into a project that Warner had the decision to take a write down for taxes. So they literally can write the entire thing down. The controversy becomes,
now they can't show it. So that's right. and that's kind of what I wanted to get to, because they're treating it as a tax write-off, is that now they're going to be legally unable to profit from the movie. So they're never going to be able to show it. There's other movies that have been in the same type of situation. One of the most infamous, and I'm curious to see if you've heard of this, the most infamous movies that had been finished and never saw the light of day, except for, I think, one small screening with some of his cohorts back in the 70s.
I have a feeling I know what this is. Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is Jerry Lewis in the film? The
Correct.
Day the clown cried.
Correct. Yes. So this was 1972. Jerry Lewis. He was the main stay behind this. I think he directed it as well. He did. He wrote it, directed. This was his thing. If you didn't know what it was, a brief. It's Lewis. He played a washed-up clown who finds his purpose entertaining children prisoners in Auschwitz
and leading them to the gas chamber.
Correct.
So, but we need to say this: Jerry Lewis that's not his real name. I think it's Jerry Moskowitz or something like that.
Something, yes. I don't know his actual.
So he is a Jewish person that was making this. Now, here's the thing. Do you remember Harry Shearer? He's a voice on The Simpsons. He's been in a ton of stuff. If you saw Wayne's World 2.
I've got a quote from him. I was going to
go ahead.
Yes. So it's funny that you had said that. So he did see the movie. He was a part of that small group of people that saw it in 1979. And he's quoted as saying this: "This movie is so drastically wrong. Its pathos and its comedy are so wildly misplaced that you could not, in your fantasy of what it might be like, improve on what it really is." That right there.
Just the concept of what it is, I don't understand. And this is not like Jerry Lewis when he's 100 years old. This is when Jerry Lewis is still making movies for MGM and places like that. So it's not like he's box office poison and came up with this.
So listen to this. I just now read this here. As of 2015, the Library of Congress had received a copy of the movie from Lewis's estate on the provision it not be screened before June 2024. So this isn't in the same ballpark as WB, because they're trying to write it off. Right. So that'll be interesting. 2 years away to see if that makes the light of day, if that comes out.
But what would be the point of releasing something like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be crap, and it should.
I think only if you want to tarnish his legacy. So, and a lot of that's been happening, especially when people have passed away. It's another, he was misogynistic or he's racist or that kind of thing. And I think there will be people that want to tear that legacy down. The difference is when Jerry Lewis would make a film or Elvis would make a film, it was kind of their project that they would sell to the studio. Now studios are greenlighting things and picking directors and producers and all that. But I think we've gone since, let's say, 2015, 2016, where there's been a lot of just garbage released. And I think
you got to blame the studio heads because they're looking at it not from creative. They're just looking bottom line.
Well, it goes to that whole controversy with Lord of the Rings. That new thing that Amazon's it's a 5-year window they want to release these things. And it's going to be a bomb because it's not based on Tolkien's actual work. It's kind of like if you took Gotham City, you take Batman, you go into Gotham City and you took a neighborhood in Gotham City And so it's not based on any of the real characters that have any real weight.
See, I'm going to come across from the other side of this. I don't think so, because it's part of the world building that they're trying to do. This is kind of like what they're doing with Star Wars. So
is that working, by the way?
I can say yes.
See, I would agree. I don't like to trash anything. As I always say, I think if you made it, like I saw the Elvis film, I can pick that apart and say, here's what things I didn't like. But overall, I thought it was a good movie. Is it great? No. What I think with the Star Wars universe or any world building is sometimes it's like when you read a book, I don't need to read a book and then ask you what you thought, so you tell me what I should think of the book.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is Amazon does not have the rights to the Tolkien actual works. They don't have the rights to The Hobbit, to The Lord of the Rings. So they are building a world around it, but it still goes to what I'm saying. You're building this neighborhood over here and making it however you want it to be, because no one can say, well, that's not canon. They're creating their own canon. Wouldn't you say that's the case?
Still no.
It's going to be shit.
Well, they don't have the rights to the actual works, but they did have to get the rights to use, I forget what it is. I'd have to go back and find it. I was reading something, and so they didn't have the rights because it was tied up with New Line, right. But they do have a working relationship with the Tolkien estate. You
know what the working relationship is?
Probably money.
$500 million.
Well, of course. Yeah, it's all about money.
Yeah, but that's my point is, Tolkien himself would not be happy with what's coming out.
Oh, yeah.
But his family that wants 3 yachts is going to say, yep, do it.
Sure.
Everything we're talking about is commerce, right? Everything is a commercial for something else. What I am curious about is when you see so much hatred, when people just see the trailers and all. I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy. I always say this. I never saw it. I never saw The Hobbit. I read the books. I have no interest in watching it. If somebody else loves it, that's awesome. But then I also look at what Marvel's doing, and I look at it and go, you're just putting out content at this point. You're just cranking.
They're doing the same thing with Harry Potter too. You know, with the latest movies coming out.
But does it get better? Is my question.
Is it
entertaining?
It's entertaining, yes. And that's what I'm going in with the Lord of the Rings, and using that as an example. Ever since, so for me, I kind of was on that same boat on stuff like, I don't need to see it. It's not what I think. I think it's going to be trash. What changed that perspective for me, I can remember vividly. I was still out in LA going to film school. The news had just broke that Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker in The Dark Knight. I thought that was the stupidest thing in the world. This 10 things I hate about you love interest dude is going to play the Joker. Yeah, right. Wouldn't even go see it. Didn't go see it opening day or weekend, I should say. But then everybody said, like, this guy is one of the best Jokers I've ever seen, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, fine, whatever. Went to a matinee. I didn't even want to spend Prime. I'll go spend the least amount of money I could just to see what everybody's talking about. That changed my perspective to, like, I will give anything a shot, even if it absolutely looks like crap, even if it turns out to be crap. I always like to have that mindset always comes back to me of Heath Ledger as the Joker. When I see something or hear something, oh, it's going to be crap. It's not based on whatever. Okay, that may be true, but I always like to go, not high expectations, but on anything, even if I'm excited for it, I try to keep expectations down. So even if it's one of the best movies in the world, if you have such high expectations that could still not meet them, even if it's a great movie, because everything that we have or can think of in our heads is going to be better than whatever's produced. That's why some of the best horror movies out there don't ever hardly show you, like Alien, for example. The first Alien, the Alien, you hardly ever saw it. It was scarier.
Well, the same with Jaws.
Exactly.
But Jaws was a choice because they couldn't get the machine to work.
Correct.
But it added intrigue that you couldn't see it.
Yes.
That's an example where an accident makes a movie.
That was a very, very happy accident, and what made Spielberg's career to where he now can do whatever he wants.
Do you think that writing, I can just tell you from reading text messages from people that this is true. But when it comes to writing in Hollywood, do you think that it is dumbed down? Because if you think about classic movies like The Godfather, I always bring that up, where there's a lot of exposition that is explained through actual dialogue versus just dumps of, well, this is the thing, and we've got to find the MacGuffin, and we're going to do this. And it's almost like we didn't have time to write all this shit out. So we're just going to go ahead and tell you a character in here. Their only purpose is to really narrate where we're going. I think that they're like the Northman. Did you see that?
I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay. That is the story of Hamlet.
Yeah.
Hamlet is the copy of the Northman. I forget what it's actually called, but it's the same thing. Whereas Shakespeare gets all the credit for it 200 years after the Northman parables told. That movie is so original and bombed at the box office because people don't get it. Right.
It could be lots of reasons. I don't remember ever seeing any previews for it when it came. So it could have been marketing as well.
Let's say it is marketing, though.
Part of it.
I think it's hard to get people to go see a Nordic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Fable.
Yeah.
That explains a family tumult, right?
Yeah.
So, but people will go out and see Captain Marvel. Now, nothing against it, but you've seen Captain Marvel. You've seen that 100 different ways. The difference is it was in the middle of the run of the MCU where Endgame, it was between Infinity War and Endgame, and that movie made $1 billion.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that doesn't mean it's a great movie. That means it's a commercial product that's sold. So I had no expectations for it. I don't hate it. The one film I will tell you on my deathbed, that my last words will be Eternals sucks. Don't make Eternals 2. Because that's another one where somebody decided to have a grand vision of what they wanted. And at the end of the day, they were making a movie for themselves. They were trying to make an art house piece with superheroes and didn't know how to pull that off.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No. I want you to finish because I want to get back to, there's a couple other.
No, that's what I'm saying. I want to
go.
go back to that.
So, Batgirl budget $70 million or whatever. Everybody's like, oh, that's such a huge amount of money. Another movie on here. This was 2009, around 2009, 2010. Avatar set the world on fire with its stunning CGI, breathtaking use of 3D, et cetera, et cetera. China, there's a real estate tycoon, Zhang Zhang.
Oh, yes.
He decided to get in on the action, invested $130 million.
Yeah.
A 3D extravaganza starring Quantum of Solace and Black Widow's Olga, I'm going to butcher her last name.
She was a Bond girl.
Kurilenko?
Yeah,
something
Kirilenko.
like that. Kirilenko, there you go. And a Greek mythology influenced adventure about a mermaid queen battling against a demon army. And it's called Empires of the Deep. It's what they wanted to answer to Star Wars.
It's the most expensive film ever made that no one will see.
Exactly.
But there are clips of it. You have to search for it, but the guy tried to bury it. The story is so bad.
Yeah.
But the special effects are so amazing, but they couldn't release it because no one understands what it's even about.
That, yes. And there was lots of things behind the scenes too. So the story goes on to say, just like there's a lot of cast and crew that didn't get paid. There were some people, there was an American actress, Irina Violet, something like that. She quit the production. They wouldn't give her passport to leave.
Right.
She had to sneak into the U.S. consulate in Shanghai so there's so much back into it as well. But $130 million just, poof,
right.
gone. Now he's probably a billionaire and doesn't care. But the other one I wanted to show Batgirl's not the only WB thing on this list. Can I guess?
Give me a hint because I might know this.
Well, just guess.
Well, that's not very much. That's not a clue.
So a version of the movie has been released.
Suicide Squad?
Correct.
Oh God, I knew it.
Yes. So there is a cut of Suicide Squad from the director.
The Ayer cut.
The Ayer cut, yes. That has been shelved. by Warner Brothers. That from sources, whether it's from Ayer himself or some of the others that, let's see, who says this here? So he's stated as saying, this is David Ayer, the director. It's shockingly different, apples and oranges. And he goes on to say, the studio cut is not my movie. And my cut is not the 10-week director's cut. It's a fully mature edit by Lee Smith.
Do you know why they shelved that?
Let's see here if it says anything specific.
They cut like 45 minutes out, but part of it is the Joker is in it a lot more, the deranged Joker.
Okay.
So when you're watching the purple Lamborghini scene, Batman knocks Joker's teeth out, and it's in the books, right? So there's a version where,
yes,
because he gets his teeth knocked out and he gets beat up so severely, that's why he tattoos damaged across his face. All those tattoos mean something. So when you see the Joker smile on his hand, he knocked all of his teeth were gone. That's why he covers his mouth in the nightclub like this.
Yeah.
Because he's used to not having his teeth, and he's trying to make a point. This is what I used to look like.
Yeah.
They cut all that out. But the Joker is so insanely cruel and violent towards Harley Quinn. She doesn't jump in that vat of poison and then become Harley Quinn. It's over several weeks and months.
Yeah.
So what they did was, for the runtime and for the violence, let's take it out so we can get kids to see this. Because if you would have a hard R versus a PG-13 or whatever. So they left Margot Robbie wearing shorts that start at the back of her neck and end there, in there. They left some of the violence in, but the movie doesn't make any sense. Who are you fighting? Yeah. There's a lot that's cut out. Studio interference ruins a lot of these movies, correct, but they wanted to get their investment back. Here's the thing. Suicide Squad, the original one, made money. Even though people say that movie's so dumb, blah, blah, blah. It does have great parts to it. It's just overall as a whole, it's a fair or good movie. What Zaslav is trying to do now is nothing that comes out is against the brand. So he wants to take the Trinity, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and build that universe off that, versus having 20 different minor characters and giving them movies like Black Canary. Mm. So that might still get a show or whatever, but the streaming wars are not over. The problem is there's too many of them. There's Peacock, there's Paramount Plus, there's Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix. What am I missing? There's like 10 more.
HBO.
Amazon, HBO, yep, Showtime. They cannot all exist because essentially what you're doing is creating a cable bill for yourself.
True, but the nice thing is what cable should have done from the get-go is now you can have an a la carte service. So, right, yes, you've got 10 streaming services. Hey, you know what? I'm going to do HBO, Netflix, Disney. I'm good. I don't need anything from Showtime. I don't need anything from et cetera. So that I like. I like the fact that there is choice out there and you don't have to do it all or nothing like you have to do with cable. I don't need 300 channels when I'm only going to watch 2.
But let's talk about
I only want to watch cable so that I can watch wrestling live, or I can watch the Blue Jackets or football. I don't need to watch IDTV or whatever.
But let's talk about why cable's in the state it's in. Cable exists to be an advertising method.
Yeah.
Streaming was the answer to that. Like, subscribe and here's libraries of stuff you can watch. But at some point, you max out how many subscribers will actually pay. So over time, like, Netflix has to raise their prices, and it's not the Disney thing we're going to get to in a second, because I find that to be egregious. But the Netflix example is they have to put more money into content they're making themselves. So they have to raise the price to offset the cost of making original movies with scripts and all that. They're not a library service anymore. Disney turning around and upping their price is criminal, because how much does Disney need to take in? And again, still losing money from the theme parks to the streaming service. Disney's problem is all they have is catalogs, and the new things they're putting out I don't think there's any quality control to it. I think it is get it out there so we have a 6-7 week run of content to get people to come here. But if you look, those shows are dropping off. They'll start at 1.1 million viewers, and by the end, they're around 400,000 viewers for these programs. Because you're not giving, it's a fan service situation. You're not giving me what I really want to see. You're baiting me in, and then I'm watching it. And it's like, oh, I'm going to watch Obi-Wan work at a deli for 2 episodes, and he doesn't want to be a Jedi. And now this other chick who nobody knows about, the show's really about her. How many times are they going to do that? I know that you liked it, and I'm not saying you can't like it.
It's okay.
I'm not saying you can't like it, but when you thought you were getting an Obi-Wan Kenobi show, did you not think it was about him?
And it was.
He was there.
He was there quite a bit. They used that show to really there was,
launch something else.
Yes and no, but they took which they didn't have to do, and I wasn't expecting them to. Maybe some people were. I wasn't. They filled some gaps and holes from the prequel movies
and added some other a-holes.
Okay, well, whatever. They took some they fixed some of the plot holes from some of the prequels, which I thought was something that they didn't have to do, but they did, and I thought that was something that was really good. Did you go through and watch it all, or did you only watch it? Exactly. It's a whole. So it's like you're gonna read a book and you're gonna go in like 2 chapters in. I know exactly what's gonna happen, so I'm just not gonna read it all. I didn't say exactly
what's gonna happen.
I
just
care about story arcs or character arcs.
I'll give you that, but here's what I want to tell you as of yesterday, depending when you hear this. If this is 2027, that was a long time ago. The writers of the series originally pitched it that it was Obi-Wan and a young Luke. Kathleen Kennedy stepped in and said, nope, it's going to be a young Princess Leia. So
that's okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah, because now they can go back because of how well it did, the way that they did the movie.
It didn't do well is the problem. No, the average viewership dropped to 400,000 people. So you have to think of all those people with Disney accounts. It started in the millions, and once they started launching, here's your Star Wars issue. The IP, they bought everything from George Lucas, but if he still gets paid if they buy Han Solo merchandise or Luke Skywalker, for Disney to really make money, they have to launch their own characters within the IP that they bought. That's why you're seeing Reva and you're seeing all these other things, characters that didn't exist. So Boba Fett on his own doesn't matter. It is the other characters around him. That's the problem is, again, this is all commerce. If you don't care to write a story about that person, because now you got to sell merchandise on top of it, you're going to cut 25% of that to George Lucas? I don't think so. So if you look, they're hamstringing the characters you know. They kill off Han Solo. They kill off Princess Leia. Thank God, because she was already dead. Why did you put that movie out with her in it? Anyway, the point being, you try to launch these characters. There is a generation of people that will grow up with these as their films. Like we had the original 3, then we got the prequels. They're going to grow up with that and go, Star Wars is okay. Whereas these were legendary things.
You got to think about that.
It's not, I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm giving you what I'm researching things. People don't like this stuff. Now, I don't dislike it. I know that, but you're also a fanatic of these things, right?
No, I don't even consider myself a fanatic because I know some fanatics. Trust me. Because I also enjoy some of the Star Trek stuff as well.
See, I like the Star Trek stuff.
Fanatics, there are both sides of those fanatics. There are, I am Star Wars, Star Trek sucks, everything, and vice versa.
See, I'm in the middle. I like both.
Those are exactly. So I don't consider myself a fanatic. I consider myself a fan of the different films, and we probably should be wrapping up because we've been talking for a long time. Oh. And nobody's watching the rest of this anyway, so
no one watched the beginning anyway.
That's true. This
let's end it here. And
I forgot to record this, by the
way. Let's just say that we had a spirited conversation.
Agree to disagree, and I'm right and you're wrong. Thanks for watching Broad Street Radio. We will see you next week.